The monitoring station floated in the darkness of space, far from any planet or star. It was a boring job, watching screens all day and night. The Carathian Empire had built this station to watch for trouble, but nothing ever happened here. Commander. Vexler had worked at this station for 5 years, and the most exciting thing he had seen was a smuggler's ship trying to sneak past. Vexler had 4 arms, like all Carathians. His green scales covered his tall body, and his large black eyes could see in the dark. He stood at his post, watching the screens that showed empty space. His crew of 20 worked quietly around him, checking systems and monitoring different sectors of space. The young officer named Kretvar sat at the scanner station. His scales were still bright green, showing he was new to the job. He had only been working here for 3 months. Every day was the same. Ships would pass by, they would scan them, check their papers, and let them go. Merchant ships, transport vessels, and patrol ships moved through their sector like clockwork. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange in Sector 9, Kretvar said, breaking the silence. Vexillar walked over to look at the young officer's screen. There was a small blip on the edge of their scanning range. It was moving slowly, trying to stay hidden. "It's probably another smuggler. They always think they can sneak past us. Turn on the active scanners and get a better look." Kretvar pressed the buttons to activate the powerful scanning beam. The moment it touched the unknown ship, every alarm in the station went off. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. Every screen in the command center started showing warnings. "What's happening?" Vexillar shouted over the noise. The main display screen flickered and then showed the scan results. Vexillar felt his blood turn cold. His scales went from green to pale white. Every Carathian in the room stopped moving. They all stared at the screen in horror. The ship had sharp angles and straight lines, not the smooth curves of Carathian vessels. Its weapons were primitive by galactic standards, but everyone knew how deadly they were. The energy signature was unmistakable. It could only be one thing. "That's a human warship," Vexillar whispered. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. They all knew what this meant. Humans were new to space, only traveling between stars for 50 years. But in that short time, they had become the most feared species in the galaxy. Not because they were evil, but because they were so good at war. On the human ship, Captain John Harrison sat in his command chair on the bridge of the USS Liberty. He was 50 years old, with gray hair and brown eyes that had seen too much. The Liberty was not a big ship by human standards, just a destroyer with a crew of 300. They were on a routine patrol, making sure the shipping lanes were safe from pirates. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat at the communication station. She was 30 years old with blonde hair tied back in a military bun. Her fingers danced over her console as she monitored all the channels. "Captain, we've been scanned. It's a Carathian deep space scanner. They know we're here." Harrison nodded slowly. He had expected this. They were near Carathian space, and the aliens were always nervous when humans came close. "No point in hiding now. Turn off the stealth systems. Let them see us clearly." Commander Kyle Watson stood at the weapons station. He was a tall man with dark skin and serious eyes. "Sir, if we show ourselves, they might call their fleet. This could turn into a situation." "I know," Harrison said with a small smile. "But we're not here to fight. We're here to patrol. If they want to watch us, let them watch. We have nothing to hide." Back on the Carathian station, panic was spreading. Vexillar tried to stay calm, but his hands were shaking. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have a human warship in our sector. Send it on the emergency channel." "Yes, Commander," the communications officer said, his voice cracking with fear. "Should we evacuate the station?" another officer asked. Vexillar thought about it. If the humans wanted to destroy them, they would already be dead. Human weapons were fast and deadly. "No, we stay at our posts, but put everyone on alert and start tracking that ship. I want to know every move it makes." The news spread quickly through the Carathian networks. Within minutes, every ship in 3 star systems knew about the human warship. Merchant captains changed course immediately, running for the nearest safe port. Mining ships shut down their operations and powered up their engines. Even pirates who had been planning attacks suddenly decided to be somewhere else. On the Liberty, Ensign Paul Miller watched his tactical display with interest. He was young, only 22, fresh out of the academy. This was his first real patrol. "Captain, I'm seeing a lot of movement out there. Ships are changing course all over the sector." "They're running," Watson said. "They're all running from us." Amy Foster looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm picking up hundreds of emergency transmissions. They're warning each other about us. The word is spreading fast." Harrison sighed. He had hoped to complete this patrol quietly, but that was impossible now. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy, and there was no escaping it. "Open a general channel. Let me talk to them." "Channel open, Captain," Foster said. Harrison stood up and spoke clearly. "This is Captain John Harrison of the USS Liberty. We are on a peaceful patrol mission in neutral space. We mean no harm to any ship or station. Please continue with your normal activities. We will not interfere with civilian traffic." On the Carathian station, they received the message. Vexlar listened carefully. The humans spoke their language well, with only a small accent. The message seemed peaceful, but everyone knew that humans were dangerous even when they said they were peaceful. "Do we respond?" Kretvar asked. Vexlar thought about it. Talking to humans was risky. Say the wrong thing, and they might take offense, but not responding might be worse. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Channel open, Commander." Vexlar spoke carefully. "Captain Harrison, this is Commander Vexlar of Carathian Monitoring Station 7. We have received your message. May we ask how long you plan to remain in this sector?" The response came quickly. "Commander, we are tracking pirate activity near our colonies. Our patrol should take no more than 1 week. We will stay in neutral space and avoid Carathian territory." Vexlar felt slightly better. At least the humans were talking, that was good. When humans stopped talking, that's when things got dangerous. "We understand, Captain. We will inform our ships of your presence." The connection ended. Vexlar turned to his crew. "Send word to all Carathian vessels. Tell them to stay at least 50,000 kilometers from the human ship. Do not approach. Do not scan. Do not do anything that might seem hostile." "Commander," Kretvar said quietly, "do you think they'll attack?" Vexlar looked at the young officer. "No. If humans want to attack, they don't warn you first. They just attack. The fact that they're talking means they want peace, but we must be very careful. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, and this could turn into a disaster." The Liberty continued its patrol, moving slowly through space. On the bridge, Harrison watched the tactical display. Dozens of ships were fleeing from them. It made him sad. Humans had come to space hoping to make friends, to explore, to learn. Instead, everyone feared them. "It's not fair," Miller said quietly. "We're just trying to help." Watson heard him. "Fair or not, this is reality. We fought one war with the Carathians 15 years ago. We won so completely that they're still terrified of us. That fear keeps the peace. But we don't want to be feared," Miller protested. Harrison turned to look at the young ensign. "Sometimes, son, being feared is better than being dead. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Our reputation protects us and our colonies. It also protects innocent ships from pirates. When criminals know a human warship is nearby, they run. That saves lives." The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Foster spoke up. "Captain, I'm receiving a priority message from Earth. Admiral Roberts wants an update." "Tell her we've made contact with the Carathians and everything is peaceful. We're continuing our patrol as planned," Harrison said. As the Liberty moved through space, the chaos continued to spread. Every species in the sector was talking about the human warship. Some were terrified. Some were curious. But all of them were watching, waiting to see what would happen next. The news traveled faster than light itself through the quantum communication networks. Every space station, every ship, every colony in 3 star systems received the same urgent message. A human warship had been detected. The USS Liberty might have been just one destroyer, but to the aliens of this sector it might as well have been an entire fleet. On the merchant vessel Golden Fortune, Captain Telmar was enjoying his morning tea when his communication officer burst into his ready room. The Carathian merchant had been trading in this sector for 30 years and had never seen his officer look so frightened. "Captain, emergency message from Monitoring Station 7. They've detected a human warship in the sector," the officer said, his scales pale with fear. Telmar dropped his cup. The hot liquid spilled across his desk, but he didn't notice. "How close?" "3 systems away, but it's moving. The humans say they're on patrol." Telmar stood up quickly. "Change course immediately. Take us to the nearest fortified port. Maximum speed." "But Captain, we'll lose 3 days of travel time. The buyers are waiting for our cargo. Better to arrive late than not at all," Telmar said. "You weren't alive during the last war with humans. I was. I saw what one human ship did to a fleet of 20 Carathian vessels. They didn't just win. They destroyed everything in 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Now move." The Golden Fortune was not alone. Across the sector, hundreds of civilian ships were changing course. The shipping lanes that were usually busy with traffic became empty. Space stations that normally handled dozens of ships per day suddenly found their docking bays deserted. On mining platform Delta 9, Administrator Goldtech watched his workers abandon their posts. The asteroid mining operation produced valuable metals for the Carathian Empire, but now his workers were demanding to evacuate. "Please everyone remain calm," Goldtech said to the assembled miners. "The human ship is far from here. We are in no danger." "That's what they said about Colony 7 during the war," one miner shouted. "The humans were supposed to be 3 systems away. Then suddenly they were there and the colony was gone. That was during wartime. We are at peace now," Goldtech tried to explain. "Peace with humans means nothing," another worker said. "They could decide to attack at any moment. We're leaving." Goldtech watched helplessly as transport shuttles began leaving the platform. Within hours, his workforce of 500 had dropped to 50. Only the bravest or most desperate workers stayed behind. Meanwhile, in the pirate base hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, Captain Corvus was holding an emergency meeting with his crew. The Bloodfang was one of the most feared pirate ships in the sector, with a crew of hardened criminals from a dozen different species. "We've been planning this convoy raid for months," his first mate, a reptilian Zelkari named Sector, was saying. "The convoy will be undefended. We could take enough supplies to last us a year." Corvus slammed his fist on the table. "Are you insane? There's a human warship out there." "It's just one ship," Sector argued. "We have 3 vessels. We outnumber them." The room went silent. Every pirate looked at Sector as if he had grown a second head. Corvus stood up slowly, his hand moving to the blade at his belt. "You fool, you absolute fool, have you heard nothing about humans?" "Let me tell you what they do to pirates," Corvus said, his voice low and dangerous. "They don't capture pirates. They don't put them in prison. They don't even give them trials. They detect pirate ships, they fire their weapons, and the pirates become expanding clouds of gas. No warning, no mercy, no survivors. But we're faster than—" Sector started. "Faster?" Corvus laughed bitterly. "Human weapons move at significant fractions of light speed. Their targeting computers can track 1,000 objects at once. Their railguns can punch through 3 meters of hardened armor. And that's just a destroyer. You want to know what happened to the Red Claw pirates who attacked a human merchant ship last year?" Nobody answered. Nothing happened to them because nothing was left of them. The humans sent 1 patrol boat. 1. It destroyed 6 pirate vessels in 4 minutes. They found pieces of the Red Claw scattered across half a light year. So no, we're not attacking any convoys. We're leaving this sector immediately. On the Carathian battlecruiser Apex Predator, Admiral Thexmar stood on his bridge, studying the tactical display. He had commanded this vessel for 10 years and fought in dozens of battles. But his 4 hands were trembling slightly as he looked at the single red dot that represented the human ship. "Admiral," "We've received confirmation from High Command," his communications officer reported. "They're sending the entire Third Fleet to support us." The entire fleet. "That's 90 ships," his tactical officer said in surprise. Thexmar nodded grimly. "High Command remembers the last war as well as I do. They're not taking chances." He paused, his mind going back to those terrible days 15 years ago. "I was there at the Battle of Kepler Station. 3 human destroyers against 40 Carathian ships. We thought we would win easily." The bridge crew listened intently. They had heard stories, but the Admiral rarely spoke of his experiences. The humans didn't fight like we expected. They didn't form battle lines or engage in honorable combat. They moved so fast our targeting systems couldn't lock on. They hit us from impossible angles. Their weapons were primitive, but devastating. Kinetic projectiles moving at 20% light speed. Our shields were designed for energy weapons. The human rounds went through our ships like they were made of paper. He turned to face his crew. "We lost 30 ships that day. The humans lost none. 0. They took some damage, yes, but all 3 destroyers survived and continued fighting. That's why High Command is sending 90 ships to deal with 1 human destroyer. Because in a real fight, we might need them all." Back on Earth, the news of the Liberty's detection had reached Strategic Command. Fleet Admiral Sandra Roberts stood in the Situation Room, watching the massive holographic display that showed the positions of all human ships across the galaxy. Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Brooks handed her a tablet with the latest intelligence. Reports. "The Carathians are mobilizing everything they have in that sector. They're really spooked." Roberts smiled. "Good. A scared enemy is a cautious enemy, and a cautious enemy doesn't start wars." She looked at the display, focusing on the single dot that represented the Liberty. "John Harrison is one of our best captains. He knows how to handle this. Should we send backup?" "The Intrepid is only 2 days away," Brooks suggested. "No. Sending more ships would escalate things. 1 destroyer is a patrol. 2 destroyers might look like an invasion force to the Carathians. We maintain current posture. What if they attack? The Liberty?" Roberts turned to look at Brooks. "Then God help them, because nothing else will. The Liberty has enough firepower to destroy a small moon, and John Harrison knows how to use every bit of it." In the civilian sectors of the nearby space stations, panic was turning into chaos. On Commerce Station Alpha 7, crowds of travelers pushed and shoved at the departure gates, desperate to get on any ship leaving the sector. "Security Chief," Landar tried to maintain order with his small force of 20 officers. "Please remain calm. Board your ships in an orderly fashion. There is no immediate danger." But the crowds weren't listening. Fear had taken over. Parents clutched their children tightly. Merchants abandoned their valuable cargo. Even some of the security officers were looking for ways to leave their posts. In the station's command center, Administrator Velthar watched the chaos on his monitors. His assistant, a young Carathian named Jexal, stood beside him. "Should we evacuate the station?" Jexal asked. Velthar was quiet for a long moment. He had served in the military before becoming a civilian administrator. He had seen what humans could do. But he had also learned something important about them. "No, we don't evacuate," he said finally. "Sir? Think about it. If the humans wanted to attack, would they announce their presence? Would they let us detect them? No, they would strike from the shadows, and we would be dead before we knew they were there. The fact that they're visible, that they're talking to us, means they don't want to fight. But the crowds are scared of stories. I'm looking at facts. Double the security forces. Prepare emergency protocols. But we stay operational. Someone needs to keep this station running, and it might as well be us." As the Liberty continued its patrol, the chaos rippled outward like waves in a pond. Every hour brought new reports of fleeing ships, abandoned facilities, and systems going on high alert. The human destroyer moved through space at a steady pace, its crew unaware of just how much terror their simple presence had caused. On the bridge, Captain Harrison reviewed the sensor data with his officers. They could see the massive movement of ships all fleeing from them. "It's like we have a disease," Lieutenant Amy Foster said sadly. We do, Harrison replied. We have the disease of being too good at war. The galaxy hasn't figured out yet that we don't want to fight anymore. We just want to protect our colonies and keep the peace. How long before they understand? Ensign Paul Miller asked. Harrison looked out at the stars through the view screen. Maybe never. Maybe that's our burden to bear. We'll be the monsters, in the dark, that keep the real monsters away. If our reputation prevents wars and protects innocent lives, then I can live with being feared. Admiral Thexmar stood alone in his quarters aboard the Apex Predator, staring at the wall of honors and medals he had earned over 40 years of service. Among them was a black ribbon, the Carathian symbol for surviving a battle with humans. Very few officers wore that ribbon. Most who fought humans didn't survive to receive medals. His mind drifted back 15 years to when the war started. It had seemed so simple then. The humans were newcomers to space, barely able to build ships that could travel between stars. The Carathian Empire had been traveling the stars for over 1,000 years. When a dispute arose over mining rights, in the Kepler system, everyone expected the humans to back down. They didn't. Thexmar remembered the first battle clearly. He had been a young captain then, commanding a destroyer in the Fifth Fleet. They had jumped into the Kepler system with 40 ships, expecting to find a few human vessels that would surrender immediately. Instead, they found 3 human destroyers, waiting for them. The Carathian admiral had actually laughed. 3 ships against 40? The humans are either brave or stupid. They were neither. They were something far more dangerous. They were prepared. The battle had lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 30 Carathian ships were destroyed or crippled. The 3 human destroyers had taken damage but were still fighting. The remaining Carathian ships, including Thexmar's, had fled in terror. A knock at his door brought him back to the present. "Enter," he called. His first officer, Commander Yeklon, stepped inside. "Admiral, the human ship has responded to your message. They claim they're only here to patrol for pirates." "And you believe them?" Yeklon hesitated. "The humans are known for being direct. They rarely lie about their intentions." Thexmar turned from his medals to face his officer. "That's what makes them so terrifying. They tell you exactly what they're going to do, and then they do it. When they say they're here for pirates, they mean it. The question is, what will they do if they find any?" On the space station called Haven's Rest, 3 old soldiers sat in a bar drinking and trying not to think about the human ship in their sector. They had all fought in the war 15 years ago and carried the scars to prove it. Gartex, a Carathian with a mechanical arm, took another drink. "I heard it's a Liberty-class destroyer. Same type that was at Proxima." His drinking companion, a Zelkari named Voss, shuddered. "I was at Proxima. 1 human destroyer held off our entire assault force for 6 hours. 6 hours. They just kept fighting, even with half their ship blown away." The third soldier, another Carathian named Bektor, who was missing an eye, laughed bitterly. "You want to know the worst part? After the war, I met a human trader. I asked him about their soldiers, their warriors. You know what he told me. He said the humans who fought us weren't even soldiers. They were just regular people who joined. They're military, teachers, farmers, engineers. Not bred for war like our warrior caste. Just ordinary humans." "That's impossible," Voss said. "Is it?" Bektor asked. "Look what they did to us. If those were ordinary humans, what would their real warriors be like?" They drank in silence, each lost in their own memories of the war. Meanwhile, in the government halls of the Carathian Empire's local sector capital, Governor Pexara was holding an emergency meeting with his advisors. The massive conference room was filled with representatives from every major species in the sector. "We need to respond to this human presence," the Zelkari ambassador said. "1 ship today could be 10 ships tomorrow." "The humans have stayed in neutral space," the Tarkanian representative pointed out. "They have broken no laws." "Since when do humans care about laws?" the Zelkari shot back. "They make their own rules." Governor Pexara raised his 4 hands for silence. "I was there when we signed the peace treaty with Earth. I looked into the eyes of their negotiator, a woman named General Rebecca Stone. Do you know what she said to me? The room was quiet. She said, "We don't want your territory. We don't want your resources. We just want to be left alone to explore and grow. But if you threaten us again, we will end you." Those were her exact words. We will end you. Not defeat, not conquer. End. So what do? Someone asked. We watch. We wait. And we pray to whatever gods we believe in that the humans continue to want peace. On a small mining colony at the edge of the sector, an old Carathian named Meltor was trying to calm down his workers. Unlike most, he wasn't afraid of the human ship. He had a different perspective on humans, one that few shared. "You're all being foolish," he told the panicking miners. "I've traded with humans for 10 years. They're not monsters." "You didn't fight in the war," one miner accused. "No, but my son did. He was captured by humans after his ship was destroyed." "Do you know what they did to him?" Meltor asked. Everyone listened closely. They gave him medical treatment. They fed him. They treated him with respect. When the war ended, they sent him home unharmed. He told me the humans seemed sad about the war. They didn't want to fight, but we gave them no choice. "But they destroyed entire fleets," someone protested. "Yes, because they're very good at war. But being good at something doesn't mean you enjoy it. The humans I've met are traders, explorers, scientists. They laugh at silly jokes, they love their children, they create beautiful art and music. They're not that different from us." "Then why is everyone so afraid?" Meltor sighed. "Because they're better at war than anyone else in the galaxy, and that terrifies people. But fear makes us do stupid things. Right now, that human ship is probably just doing what they said, looking for pirates. If we leave them alone, they'll leave us alone." Back on the Liberty, Captain Harrison was in his ready room, reviewing reports from Earth. The door chimed and Commander Watson entered. "Captain, we're picking up a lot of military traffic. The Carathians have assembled 12 ships around us, maintaining a 50,000-kilometer distance." Harrison looked up from his reports. "They're scared, can't blame them. We did hit them pretty hard in the war." "Do you ever wonder if we hit them too hard?" Watson asked. Harrison leaned back in his chair. "Every day, but what choice did we have? They came at us with overwhelming force. If we had shown weakness, they would have destroyed our colonies. We had to make them understand that attacking humans carried a terrible price, and now they're terrified of us. Better terrified than aggressive. Fear keeps the peace, Kyle. It's not ideal, but it works." Watson nodded, but looked troubled. "The crew is starting to feel it, sir. Knowing that everyone out here is afraid of us, it's affecting morale." Harrison stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "I know, but this is our burden now. We're the guardians at the gate, the monsters that keep the other monsters away. It's not a pleasant job, but someone has to do it." In the pirate base, Captain Corvus was finishing preparations to leave the sector. His crew had loaded all their supplies and were ready to depart. But before they left, he gathered them for one final meeting. "Listen carefully, all of you. We're going to pass within 100,000 kilometers of the human ship's patrol route. When we do, you will follow these rules exactly. No active sensors, no weapons powered up, no sudden moves. We drift past like a piece of space debris. Captain, we're pirates. Why would they care about us if we're leaving?" a crew member asked. Corvus walked over to a display screen and brought up an image. It showed the remains of a pirate fleet, scattered across space in thousands of pieces. This was the Black Sun Coalition. 50 pirate ships working together. They made the mistake of raiding a human colony. The humans sent one cruiser. One. The battle lasted 4 minutes. There were no survivors. The crew stared at the image in horror. The humans have a simple policy regarding pirates who attack their people: complete annihilation. No trials, no mercy, no exceptions. So when we pass that human ship, we will be very quiet and very peaceful. Understood? Everyone nodded. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Roberts was briefing the president on the situation. The Oval Office was quiet as she explained the tactical situation. The Carathians have mobilized their entire Third Fleet, 90 ships to watch one destroyer, she reported. President, David Chen raised an eyebrow. Seems excessive. Not from their perspective, sir. They remember what we did in the war. 3 of our destroyers took out 40 of their ships. By that math, they might actually be underprepared. Are we in danger of starting another war? Roberts shook her head. No, sir. Captain Harrison is one of our best. He knows how to handle this. He'll complete his patrol, show the flag, remind everyone we're watching, and then leave. The Carathians will breathe a sigh of relief and things will go back to normal. Until the next time. Yes, sir. Until the next time. This is the price of our reputation. We're the sleeping giant that everyone is afraid to wake up. As night fell on a dozen worlds across the sector, billions of beings went to sleep thinking about the human warship in their space. Some had nightmares about the war. Others dreamed of the day when fear would be replaced by friendship. But all of them knew that the galaxy had changed forever when humanity reached for the stars. The Liberty continued its patrol, unaware that it had become a legend. To its crew, it was just another mission. To the rest of the galaxy, it was a reminder that humans were here to stay, and that the universe would never be the same again. The 12 Carathian warships formed a perfect sphere around the USS Liberty, each vessel maintaining exactly 50,000 kilometers distance. It was far enough to seem non-threatening, but close enough to respond if needed. From the Liberty's bridge, it looked like they were surrounded by a constellation of hostile stars. Captain Harrison stood at the center of his bridge, hands clasped behind his back, studying the tactical display. The holographic projection showed every ship in detail. Heavy cruisers, destroyers, frigates, all armed and ready for battle. Together, they had enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They're being very careful to maintain exact distances, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Chen observed from her engineering station. She had been monitoring the Carathian ships for the past hour. No variation, no drift, they're really nervous. Commander Watson nodded from his position at the weapons console. Can't blame them. They're trying to box us in without seeming aggressive. It's actually pretty smart. Sir, Amy Foster called from communications. I'm picking up a transmission from the lead Carathian vessel. Admiral Thexmar wants to speak with you. Harrison straightened his uniform. Put him on the main screen. The view screen flickered to life, showing the image of Admiral Thexmar. The Carathian officer looked older than Harrison had expected, with scales that had dulled with age and scars visible on his face. His forearms were held in what Harrison recognized as a formal greeting position. Captain Harrison, Thexmar began, his voice careful and measured. While we appreciate your stated intention to patrol for pirates, your presence is causing significant disruption to civilian traffic in this sector. Harrison could see the fear behind the Admiral's formal words. He decided to be direct but polite. Admiral, I understand your concerns. We're not here to disrupt commerce. In fact, we're here to protect it. Pirates have been increasingly bold in attacking ships near our colonies. We're simply extending our patrol range. Your patrol range now extends into areas very close to Carathian space, Thexmar pointed out. Neutral space, Admiral. We have every right to be here just as you do. There was a pause. On the Apex Predator, Thexmar's bridge crew watched their admiral carefully. They could see him thinking, weighing every word before he spoke. Captain, perhaps we could reach a compromise. If you would share your intended patrol route, we could ensure our civilian traffic avoids those areas. This would prevent any unfortunate misunderstandings. Harrison smiled slightly. The Admiral was trying to track their movements while making it seem like a favor. It was a clever move. Admiral, I appreciate your concern for civilian safety. We'll transmit our planned route for the next 48 hours. Any vessel that stays clear of these coordinates has nothing to worry about. He nodded to Foster, who began transmitting the data. On the Apex Predator, the tactical officer immediately began analyzing the route. Admiral, they're going to pass through 3 major shipping lanes, 2 mining operations, and, sir, they're going to pass within 10,000 kilometers of Research Station Omega. Thexmar felt his scales tighten. Research Station Omega was classified, supposedly hidden. The fact that the humans were going to pass so close meant they knew exactly where it was. "They're sending a message," his first officer said quietly. "They're showing us they know where everything is." "Of course they know," Thexmar replied. "Never assume humans are ignorant of anything. They probably knew about that station the day we built it." Back on Earth, the situation was being monitored in real time. In the Strategic Command Bunker, buried deep beneath a mountain, dozens of officers watched feeds from the Liberty and analyzed the Carathian response. Fleet Admiral Roberts stood with her command staff, watching the massive tactical display. "How many ships do the Carathians have in the area now?" 93 and climbing, Lieutenant Colonel Brooks reported. "They're pulling ships from 3 adjacent sectors." "All for one destroyer," Roberts mused. "John's really got them spooked. Should we be concerned about this level of response?" General Frank Turner asked. He was Army, not Navy, but had been brought in for consultation. Roberts shook her head. "No. The more ships they send, the more frightened they are. Frightened enemies don't start fights. They're building a wall of ships around the Liberty, hoping that if something goes wrong, they might survive." "And would they? Survive, I mean?" Roberts looked at the display showing the Liberty surrounded by Carathian vessels. "Against the Liberty? If John Harrison decided to engage, I'd give the Carathians about 15 minutes, maybe 20 if they got lucky." Turner looked shocked. "One destroyer against 90 ships? You don't understand naval combat in space, General. It's not about numbers. It's about speed, firepower, and tactics. The Liberty has railguns that can accelerate projectiles to 20% light speed. At the ranges they're maintaining, the Carathians wouldn't even see the shots coming until they hit. Their shields are designed for energy weapons, not kinetic strikes. And John Harrison is one of the best tactical minds we have." On the Liberty, Ensign Miller was watching his sensor display with fascination. "Captain, I'm counting 15 more ships joining the Carathian formation. They're really serious about this." Harrison walked over to look at the young officer's screen. "What do you see, Ensign?" Miller studied the display. "They're scared, sir. The formation, the distances, the way they're positioning themselves. They're not preparing to attack. They're preparing to run if they need to." "Good observation. Remember this, Miller. Sometimes the best victory is the one where no shots are fired. Our presence here is preventing pirate attacks just by existing. Every criminal in the sector knows we're here and they're hiding. That's worth more than any battle." In the mess hall of the Liberty, the crew was trying to go about their normal routines. Petty Officer Danny Collins sat with his squad, eating lunch and trying not to think about the dozens of alien warships surrounding them. "This is insane," Private First Class Carlos Ramirez said, pushing his food around his plate. "We're surrounded by enough firepower to destroy a planet. And they're terrified of us," Corporal Betty Chang pointed out. "Did you see the sensor readings? Half those ships have their engines hot, ready to run at the first sign of trouble. Can you blame them?" Collins asked. "Remember what we did at Kepler Station?" "That was different." "That was war," Ramirez protested. "You think they see a difference? To them, we're the monsters that destroyed 40 ships with just 3 destroyers. We're the species that turned their invasion fleet into scrap metal. They'll never forget that." On the Carathian heavy cruiser stalwart defender Captain Kekseville was having a similar conversation with his officers. They were maintaining position exactly 50,000 kilometers from the human ship, weapons powered down but ready to activate at a moment's notice. "Look at it," his weapons officer said, studying the scan data from the Liberty. "It's smaller, then our ship has fewer weapons. Older technology by galactic standards. How did they defeat us so badly in the war?" Keksville had been studying human combat tactics since the war ended. "They think differently than we do. We fight with honor, following rules and traditions thousands of years old. Humans fight to win. They don't care about honor or tradition. They care about survival and victory." "That's barbaric," someone said. "No," Keksville corrected. "That's efficient. They turned warfare into a science. Every shot calculated for maximum effect. Every move designed to create chaos in our formations. They didn't just defeat us, they revolutionized space combat. Back on the Liberty's bridge, Foster received another communication. Captain, we're getting a priority message from a civilian freighter. They're reporting a distress signal from a mining platform. Possible pirate attack. Harrison's expression hardened. Location? Bearing 175 Mark II, approximately 30 light minutes from here. That's in the opposite direction from Carathian space, Watson observed. If we respond, we'll be moving away from their formation. Harrison made his decision. Helm, plot an intercept course, maximum sustainable speed. He turned to Foster. Inform Admiral Thexmar of our intentions. Tell him we're responding to a distress call. The Liberty's engines powered up and the destroyer began to accelerate. On the surrounding Carathian ships, alarms sounded as the human vessel suddenly moved. Admiral, the human ship is accelerating, the sensor officer on the Apex Predator reported. Speed increasing. They're heading away from us. Thexmar watched the tactical display. Follow them. Maintain distance but follow. And find out what they're responding to. The Carathian fleet began to move, trying to keep pace with the Liberty. But the human ship was accelerating at rates that strained their engines. Within minutes, the neat sphere formation had stretched into a long line of ships struggling to keep up. How are they moving so fast? Commander Yeklon asked, watching the speed readings in disbelief. Human engines, Thexmar replied. They don't build them for efficiency or longevity. They build them for raw power. That ship could probably maintain this acceleration for hours. On the Liberty, Harrison watched the tactical display as they pulled away from the Carathian fleet. Time to intercept? 12 minutes at current acceleration, the helmsman reported. Sir, Watson said, checking his weapon status. If this is a pirate attack. The distress signal grew stronger as the USS Liberty closed in on its source. On the main view screen, a civilian transport ship came into view, its hull breached in several places, escape pods floating nearby. Attached to it like a parasite was a pirate vessel, the Dark Talon, its boarding tubes connected to the transport's cargo bay. Captain Harrison stood up from his command chair, his face hard as stone. How many life signs on the transport? 43 civilians, mostly Carathian families, Ensign Miller reported. The pirates are moving them to their ship, probably taking slaves along with the cargo. Not anymore, they're not, Harrison said, coldly. Watson, target their engines and weapons. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. Foster, open a channel to the pirates. The channel opened with a burst of static. Harrison spoke clearly and firmly. Pirate vessel, Dark Talon, this is Captain Harrison of the USS Liberty. Release the transport and surrender immediately. You have 10 seconds to comply. On the Dark Talon, Captain Zektor, a scarred Zelkari with one eye, laughed at his bridge crew. One human ship, they're bluffing. Continue the boarding operation. Power up our weapons and prepare to... He never finished the sentence. The Liberty's railguns fired a warning shot that passed within 50 meters of the Dark Talon. The hypervelocity projectile created a shockwave that shook the entire pirate ship, sending crew members tumbling to the floor. 5 seconds, Harrison's voice continued over the comm, completely calm. Zektor scrambled back to his feet, looking at his sensor display in shock. The human ship had targeted every vital system on his vessel. 24 different weapon locks showed on his screen. His weapons officer was pale with fear. Captain, if they fire, we're dead. Their weapons will go through our shields like they don't exist. 4 seconds. We surrender. We surrender. Zektor screamed into the communicator. Don't shoot. We're powering down weapons. On the Liberty's bridge, Harrison nodded to Watson. Keep them locked. If they so much as twitch, turn them into debris. He turned to Foster. Get me the transport. Ship. A frightened Carathian face appeared on the screen. The transport's captain had green scales that were almost white with terror. Please, don't destroy us. We're just civilians. Captain, this is the USS Liberty. We're here to help. Are any of your people still on the pirate vessel? The Carathian blinked in confusion. You're helping us? But we're Carathian. You're civilians under attack. That's all that matters. Now, are any of your people on the pirate ship? Yes, yes. They took 15 of our passengers, families with children. Harrison's expression darkened further. He turned to his security chief, Lieutenant Steve Baker. Prepare a boarding party, full combat gear. We're getting those people back. Sir, Watson said quietly, the Carathian fleet is approaching. They'll be here in 3 minutes. Then we'd better work fast. The Liberty's boarding party launched in an assault shuttle, crossing the space between ships in seconds. On the dark, Talon panic was spreading. The pirates knew what human marines were capable of. They're going to kill us all. One pirate moaned. Zektor grabbed him by the throat. Shut up. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. They want the hostages. Give them the hostages and maybe we live. The Liberty's assault shuttle attached to the Dark Talon's hull with a magnetic seal. The pirate ship's hull was breached in seconds by shaped charges. 12 human marines in powered armor burst through, moving with terrifying speed and precision. Sergeant Ruth Kelly led the team, her armor's sensors showing her the location of every life form on the ship. Hostages are in Cargo Bay 3, 2 pirates guarding them. Maxwell, Rodriguez take them down, non-lethal if possible. The Marines moved through the pirate ship like a force of nature. Pirates who tried to resist were knocked unconscious in seconds. Those who surrendered were ignored, left cowering against the walls as the humans passed. In Cargo Bay 3, 2 pirate guards stood over the 15 Carathian civilians, weapons raised. They never saw the Marines coming. Stun rounds dropped both guards before they could even turn around. We're human Marines, Kelly announced to the terrified civilians. We're here to get you home. Can everyone move? A Carathian mother clutching. 2 children looked up in disbelief. You're saving us, but humans? Ma'am, we need to move now. Save the questions for later. Within 4 minutes, all 15 hostages were aboard the Liberty's shuttle and heading back to the transport. The Marines left as quickly as they had arrived, leaving the pirate crew stunned but alive. Admiral Thexmar's fleet arrived to find the situation already resolved. The Apex Predator dropped out of its high-speed approach, sensors taking in the scene. A pirate vessel floating dead in space, a damaged transport, and the Liberty sitting protectively between them. Admiral, his sensor officer reported, the human ship has disabled the pirate vessel and rescued the hostages. The transport is damaged but stable. No Carathian casualties. Thexmar stared at the tactical display. They saved a Carathian transport? Yes, Admiral. They're transferring the rescued passengers back now. On the Liberty, Harrison watched as the Carathian fleet spread out around them. This time, though, the formation seemed less threatening and more curious. Captain, Foster said, Admiral Thexmar is requesting communication. Put him through. Thexmar appeared on the screen, his forearms held in what Harrison now recognized as a gesture of respect. Captain Harrison, the Carathian Empire thanks you for protecting our civilians. Just doing our job, Admiral. Pirates are bad for everyone's business. There was a pause. Thexmar seemed to be choosing his words carefully. Captain, your efficiency in handling this situation has been noted. My government has authorized me to grant your vessel free passage through our space for the duration of your patrol. Harrison nodded. We appreciate that, Admiral. We'll continue to respond to any distress calls regardless of species. That is admirable, Thexmar said, and Harrison could tell he meant it. After the communication ended, the Liberty's bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Miller spoke up. Captain, the Carathian ships are moving. They're forming an escort pattern. Harrison looked at the tactical display. The Carathian fleet had reformed, but this time they were positioned as an escort, not a containment force. They were actually protecting the Liberty's flanks as it continued its patrol. On the rescued transport, Captain Velnor was trying to explain to his passengers what had happened. The humans saved us. They risked their lives to rescue our people from pirates. But they're humans, one passenger protested. They destroyed our fleets in the war. Yes, Velnor agreed. And today, they saved your children. Perhaps it's time we stopped seeing them as monsters and started seeing them as what they really are. What's that? Protectors. Dangerous protectors, but protectors nonetheless. Word of the rescue spread quickly through the sector. The story grew with each telling. The human warship that everyone feared had saved Carathian civilians. They had rescued children from pirates. They had done it quickly, efficiently, and without unnecessary bloodshed. On Haven's rest station, the old soldiers in the bar heard the news with surprise. They saved Carathians? Gartex asked, his mechanical hand pausing with his drink halfway to his mouth. 15 civilians, including children. The bartender confirmed. Took them 4 minutes to disable the pirate ship and rescue everyone. Bektor, the one-eyed veteran, laughed. 4 minutes. Of course it only took them 4 minutes. Humans don't do anything slowly. Maybe we were wrong about them, Voss said, quietly. No, Bektor corrected. We were right about them being dangerous. We were just wrong about why they're dangerous. They're not dangerous because they want to conquer or destroy. They're dangerous because they protect what they think is right. And gods help anyone who gets in their way. Captain Harrison stood, in his ready room, looking at a message from Earth. Admiral Roberts had sent a simple note. Well done. You've shown them who we really are. The door chimed and Lieutenant Commander Chen entered. Captain, we've received 17 thank you messages from the transport passengers. They want to know if they can do anything to repay us. Harrison smiled. Tell them to spread the word. Humans are here to help. We're not the monsters they think we are. Are you sure they'll believe it? After today? I think some of them will. And that's a start. The Liberty continued its patrol, now accompanied by a Carathian escort. It was an odd sight. The ship everyone feared being protected by those who feared it. But it was also a sign of something new, something that hadn't existed before. Understanding. Pirates throughout the sector got the message loud and clear. The human patrol was real, and it would respond to any attack on civilians. Within days, pirate activity dropped to nearly zero. Merchant ships began returning to their routes. Mining operations resumed. On the Apex Predator, Admiral Thexmar made a decision that would have been unthinkable just days before. He invited Captain Harrison to dinner aboard his ship. Are you sure about this, Admiral? Commander Yeklon asked. Yes. We spent 15 years fearing humans. Maybe it's time we tried understanding them instead. The dinner was awkward at first. Harrison came aboard with only 2 guards, a sign of trust that wasn't lost on the Carathians. They ate and talked, carefully at first, then more openly as the evening went on.